Welcome to the Powell Bros movie review. We are here with another podcast, another episode, another movie to review today. I'm here with my co-host, Tobiah. Tobiah, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. A little sick, so you can probably hear it in my voice. But I think I'll get through this one pretty good. Not too
Cool,
bad.
cool.
So
I just got over being sick, so still got a little lingering thing too as well though. But I'm all right.
yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Yeah. Do we want to just jump right in? What movie did we do last week?
Last week was
Yep.
X-Men Origins.
Yep.
Wolverine.
Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
And we absolutely tore that movie apart. I don't think there was much left at the end.
Yeah.
It is dead and it will remain dead. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, honestly. But it was an experience. But today we're moving on in the timeline, following in chronological order to the best of our ability, which is a little difficult. But we've had some shifts and move arounds because we were originally going to do Days of Future Past after First Class.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we realized that one technically takes place in the modern day X-Men, with the original three, and they go back in the past, and so it's just the timeline's so messy. We decide, okay, we'll just jump to Apocalypse, and then we'll do Dark Phoenix next, and eventually get to Days of Future Past, but not today. So today we are doing X-Men Apocalypse.
Yep.
What were your initial thoughts, first opinions?
Well, this is another movie that got a lot of hate. I think a lot of people didn't like it.
For sure.
I enjoyed it. I think this has been maybe one of the better movies that we've seen. There was, I don't know, man. I mean, there was just a lot to go through. The story was,
There's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, what did you think about the story? Just plot and
So
overall.
the story in the beginning, there was so many different stories happening. I mean, I think there was like 4 or 5 stories that we were trying to keep up with, which, I mean, again, that's something you see in group hero movies.
Right.
There was just a lot to establish in this movie that they had to kind of get out of the way to set up. I mean, they start with Apocalypse and who he is, and I think the very beginning of the movie was really great. It was a great setup for the villain and who he was, and I think just seeing his influence to like the people that follow him and seeing them sacrifice their lives to save him, which is, the opposite of a hero. I think that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Seeing that and just kind of seeing like how powerful he was, and just right off the bat was pretty great for that. But then after that, you kind of get into all the different heroes and you're just trying to understand all their stories. Raven had a pretty big story in this that a lot of times I think was maybe unnecessary, but she was like kind of like the glue as well that was like connecting all these stories.
Right.
But she
because and it kind of comes off of the last movie, Days of Future Past, which we didn't watch, and so it's kind of, and same with Magneto. It was kind of hard for us to jump to this one because we've missed a little bit of character development. But we are judging these movies individually, and so like we are like saying, okay, what's the story being told in this movie? And yes, sequels and whatnot, they're important, and like we need to make sure we're not neglecting the previous movies, but we also know the story enough, so like Mystique, was a big hero. She revealed herself as a mutant to the whole world in the last one, and that's why Jean and I think Storm as well, they look to her as like a model, like someone to follow, and she didn't realize that. She just thought, she was just being, well, she didn't think that she had that much of an impact, but she did upon those other women and stuff. So that's what, from their point of view, that's what they were trying to do, I think, with her.
Yeah. So what are some of your thoughts, your initial thoughts overall?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be as generous. I enjoyed it as a comic book movie. It was fun for the most part. So going back to when this first came out, I saw this in theaters. I remember watching Days of Future Past, and that which was a great movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. But I remember watching Days of Future Past in the theater, and then at the end credits, they revealed Apocalypse. He was like a kid, he was blue skin, and I actually at the time I didn't know much about Apocalypse, and so I had to go back and kind of learn and study the comics, watch some videos on him and whatnot, and I was like, okay, he's a pretty big deal. Like he's a very very intimidating. He's a big villain. He's pretty much like the Thanos of the X-Men. So he's a big deal. And so I was like, okay, I'm kind of excited about them doing a villain like this in an X-Men movie. Like they didn't do anything like this before. I mean, they had the Sentinels in the Days of Future Past. They were kind of like the big the big villain. I mean, they weren't the villain, but well, they kind of were a villain. But anyways, Magneto was kind of the main villain of the X-Men movies, and then but you didn't really have like a big bad, or at least as big on this scale like Apocalypse until this movie. So I was excited about it. So I remember going to see it, and even then I remember being pretty let down. I was like, okay, well that was it. Like they tried to do a lot with him, but I think it just kind of fell flat in a lot of ways. Like his motivations weren't very clear. I mean, he wants to take over the world, but he wants world domination. He wants to get rid of those that have power, so that the weak would rise or something. So he wants to rid the world of all superpowers, not referring to like weapons of mass destruction and nukes, and so that's why he sets off all the nukes and into outer space and whatnot. And he, well, so then like he has that scene where he's touching the TV and he's like learning, he's like learning everything somehow through the television, and then he's like, okay, this world kind of this world's terrible. I'm gonna kill everyone. I'm gonna destroy it. And that was kind of like it. That was like his motivation. And they didn't give us any reason to really hate him necessarily. I mean, he killed some guys, but it wasn't like we had any connection to them. And it was just, I don't know. He was just evil for evil's sake. So he's kind of a generic villain, I guess. And okay, I'm kind of focusing on the villain, but like, because I mean the movie's called Apocalypse, like this is about Apocalypse, and I just think I would have done the villain completely differently, and I just don't think he was as intimidating. Even just like he didn't look that intimidating. He looked like a Power Rangers villain. Like it wasn't like, I don't know. And we'll get more in the comic book accuracy because he's not very comic book accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not nearly as bulky and intimidating as he is in the comics, but I'll get more into that in a little bit. I felt like the plot was just kind of all over the place. I mean, like you said, you had all these different threads going, and there wasn't really anything driving the heroes except for, oh, there's a bad guy that's come to life after thousands of years, and he wants to take over the world. So let's go get him. And even then, like his like going back to his motivations and his plan, like didn't really make sense because he had all these different scenarios that had to work out in order for him to get Xavier to where he is, so that he can take his body and use his mind to tell everyone, I'm going to kill you all, or I'm going to destroy the world, which didn't make any sense why he would do that, why he would tell everyone, because then he's like, I'm gonna take Xavier's mind so I can mind control everyone. It's like, okay, so what was the point of telling everyone that you're going to take over the world? It's just little things like that. It just kind of bugged me. I feel like a lot of the there was very few heroes that had much of an arc. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say that Mystique had a little bit of an arc, but Jennifer Lawrence, she looked like she did not give a crap about this movie. Like she was like uninterested just had like she was just there. Like it wasn't like,
yeah, that was something
she didn't have much of like emotion.
That was something I noted under acting, was her acting was terrible in this movie. Like just awful.
right, which isn't necessarily common for Jennifer Lawrence, though. I'm not like a huge fan of Jennifer Lawrence, but because I think like even the Hunger Games, she's not like that great of an actor.
Yeah,
But
it really
um,
popped out in this movie though.
yeah, it did. But I think it's because she just was over because she was hardly even Mystique. Like, if you realize that,
Hmm.
so like she probably didn't want to do like the 5 hours of makeup or whatever.
Yeah,
Just like make me look like Jennifer Lawrence this whole movie,
and if you
and
notice,
she was a big star at the time too.
yeah, and if you notice, the makeup in this one looks way different
Oh, it
because
is different.
I'm assuming they used something else that would speed up the process, or
Yeah,
they were just
exactly.
cutting corners to speed up the process.
Right.
And yeah, her makeup looks really weird in this movie when she is actually.
Yeah. Though I'm not like I haven't been the biggest fan of Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique anyway, even from First Class, but I think she was especially bad in this one. Xavier, like he was kind of sidelined. I mean, this was like if we're talking about okay, who's the main characters, who's the main heroes? It was pretty much Jean Grey and Cyclops. Like those are the two that they pretty much followed the most, and mostly Jean because they were setting up the Dark Phoenix, which also didn't make any sense because she unleashed the powers of the Dark Phoenix. But in the next movie, which we'll talk about that movie when we get to it. She doesn't get her powers until like a solar blast hits her, and then she has the powers. So it didn't make any even continuity sense with the next movie. But they tried the Dark Phoenix saga in the third X-Men Last Stand and completely failed. They tried it kind of in this one, at least set it up, and it felt like it fell short. And then the next one, okay, let me rewind. This one it made sense. Like she had a little bit of character development, a little bit of an arc, which was fine. Who else? Quicksilver. He was like they tried to give him an arc, but where like the whole thing with Magneto being his dad, because I think he found out in the last movie that Magneto was his dad, and so like and that they didn't really go anywhere with that. Like it would have made sense for him to go to Magneto and tell him that like, hey, I'm your son. After Magneto lost his family and felt like he lost everything, it would have been a little bit of like motivation for him to like change. But anyways, going Magneto, I felt like they gave him a little bit of an arc, which was decent. Though it was just the same arc that they give him in every single they give Magneto in every X-Men movie, and so
Yeah,
that was
there was
so.
just a
But for
lot
this movie,
going on in this movie, and I think that's one of the
yeah,
problems. They made too many arcs for too many of these heroes. They should have almost
right.
sidelined maybe more of the characters and given better stories for others.
What? Well, but even that, like they did sideline a lot of characters, like the Four Horsemen.
Oh yeah,
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
yeah.
that. Like, Psycho. What's her name? The purple beam lady.
I just wrote down
I
energy
keep wanting to say
lady.
psych. Oh yeah,
I don't remember
it's like
her name.
it's psycho psych. I don't know. She had like one line in the movie, like
Yeah,
like like Darth Mulder. Like it was just like one line, but it was she was just there. Like she had no emotion. She had just no character, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna be bad now, and I'm gonna fight alongside this apocalypse guy and do some flips
yeah,
and shoot some laser beams, and then I'm out of here. Like
yeah.
that was it. Uh, what'd you think of the Four Horsemen? How'd they handle that?
Yeah, it was pretty weak. I mean, the whole recruiting of them was weak. I feel like that's
Yeah.
something like how you were saying, like if this was going to be like a big bad, they could have done a few movies with Apocalypse. Like they could have been setting him up, and
Yep.
they could have established the Four Horsemen like in another movie before he came or something, and that would have been
Right.
good. But like all these stories were just like so quick, so that didn't come off very well. And then
Hmm.
yeah, like you said, like the whole Four Horsemen story just kind of fell apart. Like it was only in there for like the middle of the movie because they all just
Right.
end up betraying him, and it's like
Right.
okay, it's like they could.
Well, even like I didn't even get what was like Storm's motivation or the
She was
laser
getting
beam lady.
well, Storm was getting all scared or something because she's like a kid, or I
Huh.
guess. So
Oh,
she's just getting
okay.
scared. So
Yeah.
then she decides to
Right.
switch sides, and then
And then Angel, he was
he blew
he
up.
didn't have much character. He blew up. Well, yeah, he died,
Yeah,
but like we had no reason to care about him.
yeah,
It's just, I mean, they kind of like because he got electrocuted at the beginning, and then that was it. But like there was no reason to like him or
well,
care
yeah.
about
I
him.
mean, the guy that we liked was the
Nightcrawler,
Nightcrawler. Yeah,
which he was decent.
yeah.
In
He
it,
was one of the
sort of.
best characters in this movie.
Yeah,
I think like just because like it's supposed to be apocalypse and like the end of the world, so that's why they're like, oh, let's like throw in the Four Horsemen or something, and that's just where
yeah.
they got
I
that.
think yeah. It's common in the comics. Like
Yeah,
he always has his four horsemen.
yeah, and it didn't really work in this movie.
Yeah, but like what you're saying about setting him up, like he is a Thanos level villain, and they tease him in the end credits of Days of Future Past, and then just throw him in here for this one movie. It would have been really cool if they did the whole like a whole trilogy setting up Apocalypse.
Yeah,
Like First Class should have teased him. Days of Future Past should have focused on him. And I mean, though I'm glad they did the Days of Future Past like story from the comics, and they did a great job there. But if you're gonna set up Apocalypse, like do 3 movies at least, or like even this one and the next one, Dark Phoenix, like make Apocalypse be the main villain for these, and set him up. You know, don't kill him off in the first one, but give him some character, give him a reason why we should hate him, but like him as a villain, and then set him up for something huge in the next movie or something. Like to give us more than just one movie where you're already introducing a whole bunch of characters. Like you're introducing all these characters, and then you're like, all right, this is also Apocalypse movie, and we're trying to make it about Apocalypse, but you're also supposed to care about these other heroes. And these heroes, we're not going to give them any character. We're not going to give them any really much of an arc that you want to follow or care about. And we're going to copy and paste what we've done with Charles and Magneto, which is fine, but there wasn't much more to their story.
mm-hmm.
They give Magneto a family just so that they can give him a reason to suffer
Yeah.
and be convinced to follow Apocalypse. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
The only reason that we care about the fact that his family dies is because we know who Magneto is from the other movies, and we've grown to like the character. And it's like, okay, we feel it. Like his wife and daughter dies, and he's trying to just live his life. You know, it's like we get it, but from this movie, not necessarily. Like there's not much for a reason for us
yeah,
to care.
yeah. And one thing that you had mentioned earlier was that like the heroes had no mission at all. They were just kind of
Right.
sitting back and relaxing, learning at a school, and then yeah, there's like they're like, oh, there's a bad guy. Let's stop him.
Yeah. Right.
There is no motivation there, and it
Right.
was, yeah, it was very weak storytelling there.
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, what'd you I don't know, any like specific themes that you saw throughout the movie?
One
And
thing,
the whole thing about like working together. Go ahead.
oh, about them working together.
Yeah, like teamwork.
Yeah, and towards the end of the movie, which we can get into that maybe in a bit. One thing that I remembered about the villain one thing I liked was that he would like sympathize and connect with his followers or the people that he wanted to follow him, and that was like a good manipulation tactic that he used, and I thought
Right.
that was an interesting thing about him that kind of gave him a little bit of depth.
That's good.
I mean,
yeah.
just one thing among many of his flaws. I feel like what they did a lot with him was like they used his voice to like make him be more intimidating. Because like remember, I don't know if you remember, like they would always like just like weirdly alter his voice, like really.
They would, yeah.
I mean, Oscar Isaac already makes it really deep in this, and then there would be like just random parts when he's talking, and they just make it like really more deep, or I don't even know what they do to it. It's something weird.
Yeah, and it's like when he hits like higher notes, it's just like or it's well, not like higher. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just,
it's a weird
yeah,
thing.
it just when he like gets to like the climax of his speeches, like they just get deep.
Yeah,
Which I thought was fine. I thought it was good. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what else. Quicksilver was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned like, I mean, I don't. They didn't really give him. I don't know. Maybe didn't give him much of an arc, but
I think the
he was
actor and the
fun.
character were good.
Yeah.
They and with the arc that they gave him, I think he really made it work. And yeah, so him, Quicksilver, and Nightcrawler were my favorites in this movie.
Yeah.
Like they both,
Yeah.
I think, really
Definitely.
nailed their roles.
Yeah, it was fun that they gave Quicksilver more of a role, because in the last one they just gave him that one scene, and then they did a new, did it again with this one, which
Yeah.
I think was even better. It was like him saving everyone in the castle.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then there was another new character was Scott. Well, Scott and Phoenix. But Jean, I guess is her name.
Yeah, Cyclops. Gene.
Scott is quite a bit different, I think, in this one than he is in the original trilogy, from what I remember.
Oh, for sure.
But
yeah.
I did like I don't remember, I don't know that actor's name, but I like a lot of movies that he's in. But he I think he did the character pretty well, but it wasn't like the other version of him.
Yeah, different. Well, I mean, I feel like the other ones, he's just a lot more mature. Even though this is, I mean, we can talk about timeline and aging.
Yeah.
Like like these characters are supposed to be like their 40s right now. Like,
Yeah.
and they're like in their 20s, and the next movie's even worse.
Yeah.
But because it jumps another 10 years in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like it. So like Michael Fassbender is supposed to be 60, I think, in this movie. And he's 40. So there's a 20-year difference for all these characters, just because of how they set up the timeline, which I don't really care about. Like, it's fine. Like, they chose this new cast they wanted to work with. I don't know why they did the 10-year jump for every movie. There was literally no reason for them to do it that I know of. So I don't know why, but it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's what it is. But yeah, I mean, I thought Scott was all right. They had the whole thing with his brother. So his brother dies in the castle, sacrificing himself to destroy Cerebro, sort of sacrificing himself. But which is good. But like, I feel like he cared for like one scene. Like, his brother died, and he's like emotional, and like he kind of gets over it after like a couple scenes, like one or two scenes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuity issues with the other movies.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are, because this is technically a different storyline than the original X-Men. So this is an alternate.
For those who don't
timeline.
know, they restarted the timeline in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
So they can make different decisions, or have people be born in completely different decades. Like Angel. Angel's I think he's in the third X-Men, and he's like a young guy. Like, so basically, like, they took this character and made him like 30 years younger or 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Or be born 20 years earlier, which is whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, there's him, and then some things that
Nightcrawler.
happened in this movie. Yeah, Nightcrawler. Some things that happened in this movie that line up with the original X-Men, which is interesting, because it's like, I wonder if, like, in their heads, if this actually happened in the original story and just happened a little differently.
Right.
Because, like, Xavier goes bald in this movie because of Apocalypse, and we know him for being bald in the other movies. So it's like, in the original trilogy, is that how he went bald?
In case you were wondering how
Yeah.
he went bald.
And then, like,
Apocalypse melted his mind.
Storm gets white hair. Like, that was from Apocalypse. So
In case you were wondering how Storm got white hair. I hate prequels for this reason.
Yeah.
It just they sometimes they do it real well. But I hate when I might have talked about this last week. I don't know. I'll probably talk about it a lot, but I don't like when they give really lame reasons for why characters get like their superpower. Like they're trying to think of like how Xavier went bald. Like, it wasn't like a dumb reason. It was fine. Like, Apocalypse did it, like, caused it to happen. It's fine. But like, they're just answers that we're not really ever like things we're never really asking about, and they just give reasons for, and it's just it's kind of lame.
Yeah,
I
for
guess.
sure.
So I wasn't wanting to know, like Han Solo in Solo Star Wars Story, how he got his name. Like,
Yeah.
just he's a loner. So that's why he's called Solo. Obviously he doesn't have a family.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of lame. I wasn't really even asking why he got his name. But anyways,
Yeah. And
that's
then
my rant for tonight.
there was the comment by Xavier about the age gap and how they're not aging. He
Oh
comments about
yeah, he did say
Moira
that.
that he's like she's barely aged today.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like 50.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
And then
Yeah, this movie was a little self-aware. They had the movie theater,
oh yeah,
coming out of the movie
with
theater, or Return of the Jedi.
yeah, the
They're like, well,
trilogy.
the third one's always the worst
Yeah.
anyway. We could all agree the third one's the worst. It's like, all right, and this one was the worst, in my opinion.
Yeah. Stryker was another character. He
Yeah,
was way too young in this movie because like
for sure.
I mean in 10 years he's supposed to be a really really old guy with gray hair. I mean a lot of
Right.
these characters are supposed to be and
Yeah,
that made absolutely no sense because especially watching
right.
this in chronological order, going from
Yeah,
super old to super young,
yep,
and then back to super old.
yep. It was the same actor he was in Days of
Yeah,
Future
Days of
Past
Future Past.
as well.
Yeah,
So, but same age, pretty much. There's 10 years different.
yeah. So this was all over the place. Well, I guess we can kind of get into the ending of the movie,
Yeah.
the third act. I think this is what made me like the movie a lot more. Was because of the third act. I thought it was handled pretty well. You let down all the poor setting up. I think they
Yeah.
did pretty good compared to the other movies that we've watched in the ending, especially like with the Dark Knight of the Soul. There's clearly a Dark Knight of the Soul in this movie, which was when
Right.
Apocalypse is just feeding all of them as they attack. They were all very emotional, just scattered and attacking him, and they were all without a good leader. They're just all just trying to kill him and just use their powers, and it just wasn't working. It was like barely affecting him, and
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty great. And then there's a bit of a sacrifice, I would say, with Xavier. Because he kind of sacrificed himself to save Raven. I mean, he went into Apocalypse's mind, and that was like him sacrificing
Right.
himself to save her.
Good point.
Like he was trying to get out there, but he couldn't. But so I think that went well. And then there's this kind of transition where you kind of see Xavier becoming a good leader, and because right after that is when they all start to work together and actually attack him and actually do some damage.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, it was Jean that kills him,
The Dark
which
Phoenix.
was all right, I guess. Because they
Yeah.
set up this whole thing because like what she had, because like there's always something that the hero has to overcome for the Dark Knight of the Soul, and it was that she had to get over the fact that she was holding back her powers, which
Yeah.
was very poorly set up. So it's like
Right. It was.
that was a bit of a miss there. When you watch it, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this supposed to be like a super big moment for her, but you guys didn't even
Right.
set it up.
Didn't set it up. Exactly.
So that didn't really work. But which I guess we could kind of get into the female roles in this movie is better than First Class.
First Class. Yeah, definitely.
A lot less exploitation of the women, but there's still definitely some in there.
Yeah, there was a little bit. It wasn't nearly as bad or no even noticeable
Yeah,
as much. So.
yeah. I felt like a lot of the, I mean, this is just typical what you get in these movies is like just the women acting like men, just acting like soldiers, uh,
Mm-hmm.
all trying to fight in the fights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was about the best of the movie.
I don't know. What about like more of the technical aspects? Cinematography and CGI. I thought the CGI wasn't noticeably bad. Some of the scenes where Magneto is like ripping the Earth apart looked a little cartoonish, but wasn't terrible. It didn't stand out like a sore thumb or anything.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, they went all practical effects for Apocalypse's suit, which I don't know, which was fine. I mean, it's probably good, but like I have some issues with the suit. But talking about CGI, like overall, I think even what he does with the sand, like that was pretty well done.
Mm-hmm.
There was some pretty gruesome scenes, like for a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
Like they said at the beginning, and I mean they went PG-13 with Wolverine, which we didn't even talk about that yet. But Wolverine was in this. Had no reason story-wise for him to be in it, but he was in it, and it was pretty awesome. um, I think that's probably it for that.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, first, I guess I could say, I mean, speaking of Wolverine, we will be talking about him in our Patreon episode for the cameo.
Yes.
So if you are enjoying these episodes and you enjoy our show, that's a great way to support us and help us to keep bringing you more of these reviews. And if you subscribe, you'll get more content there. We have after hours episodes where we talk about the end credit scenes, the cameos, and just anything
This one
else.
did have a Stan Lee cameo.
And just anything else happening in the film industry. Oh, and this week we are going to be doing a quick, short review of Godzilla -1.
Godzilla.
It'll be more of a compressed version of these longer reviews, probably 15-20 minutes. So subscribe and you'll be able to listen to that. And yeah, we appreciate your support. So as far as the CGI and visuals, yeah, it wasn't too bad. I agree, there was a few scenes with Magneto. I think that was the biggest thing that I didn't like. I think one thing that I noticed that I like is that they really do a lot of practical sets, a lot more than tons of green screens,
Right.
than a lot of the MCU is known for doing. So I appreciated that, but it wasn't like distracting or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't very distracting, which is nice.
And I think just as far as anything else, technical, music score, I thought it was good, compelling.
Yeah, once again with like the score they used for Magneto in his scenes, especially earlier on, were just great, incredible. Those were good. Not distracting. Apocalypse's score was good too. It just made him a little more menacing. I felt like.
Yeah, for sure.
Add some tension to his character.
Yeah, I guess that's it for technical. We already talked about acting. I liked Quicksilver. I liked Nightcrawler. Jennifer Lawrence didn't do well, but most of the other actors, pretty much all the ones that were in the other movies, transferred over pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I want to maybe talk a little bit about comic book accuracy.
Oh yeah.
Once again, like Apocalypse, I don't think they did a great job. I thought Oscar Isaac was a good choice for him, and I think he did a great job for what he was given. But man, like in the comics, he's a lot more intimidating. He's bigger than everyone else around him, especially
huge, like almost
like there was a couple
Thanos
scenes.
and Hulk.
Yeah, yeah, at least. There were a couple scenes where he's standing like with the four horsemen, and they're all like taller than him.
Yeah.
Because Oscar Isaacs, I think, is kind of a shorter guy. So like they didn't make him taller, and they didn't make him bigger. Like that was kind of disappointing. It was just like, and the only intimidating thing about him was his powers, which even his powers weren't really well defined, as far as like what it is that he actually can do. But in the comics, like he's given like almost all the mutant powers. Like he's kind of like Deadpool and X-Men or Origins almost.
Yeah.
Like he's given a lot of different powers, but he's like able to use them consistently, and like he's the first mutant ever, which they talked about in the movie, which, you know, going to its origins, they even made a comment, the CIA lady, who I still Maurice Morini Moira.
Yeah.
I can't say it. Anyways, you know, she made a comment, or Havoc was in the office and with Xavier, and they were talking about Apocalypse, and you know, he talked about the Four Horsemen, and then Havoc's like, yeah, so he got that. He made a comment saying he got that from the Bible, and then she's like, or the Bible got it from him, and everything. So, which of course isn't true. I mean, the whole concept of the apocalypse is from Scripture, from the Book of Revelation, which even, you know, this is kind of a rabbit trail, but the word apocalypse isn't necessarily talking about the end of the world. The word apocalypse is from the Greek word apocalypto, which just means a revelation, a revealing of something, and it's the revelation of the end of the world. You know, I have other opinions on Revelation, but I'm not going to get into that here. It's just a theology podcast.
And the Four Horsemen too, is also,
and the Four Horsemen are from
I think they actually did kind of well, because it's supposed to be conquest, war, famine, and death. The Four Horsemen. So conquest would be the energy lady, whatever her name is. War was Angel, because Angel was like fighting in those battles like in the ring. Famine was Storm, because she was broke and stealing food. Yeah. And then Magneto was Death, because his family died. And he kills.
Oh, okay. Wow, good job. Yeah. I did not notice that. That's cool. Yeah, that's
just
okay.
Something
so there was a reason why those four were chosen.
Yeah,
that was nice. Well done. Yeah. So anyways, like the whole concept of apocalypse, you know, it's like the idea comes from Scripture, but it's, you know, in the comics he's a ancient being from thousands of years ago, who's the first mutant ever, and he's given all these powers, and he's a force of nature. Like he's one of the biggest villains in the comics. He like physically, like I said, he's a lot more intimidating. He's very bulky, very muscular, which we didn't get they didn't even show any of his muscles in this one, really. It was just wearing his suit.
I think the only time they teased anything about his size was when it was in the dream sequence, when he was growing. Yeah,
so like,
and you can tell
that was kind of a tease to the comics. Yeah,
because they didn't grow him like taller. You could actually see his arms getting big,
get bulky.
Right. Yeah, they actually made him look bulky in that.
Right, and like that's how he. I mean, not that big, but that's how big he's supposed to be. Like he's supposed to be big like that, and so they gave us a little bit of it, but just creatively, that's not the direction that Bryan Singer went. Bryan Singer is the director.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And by the way, Bryan Singer, he directed X1, X2, and Days of Future Past, and then this one. I think those are the only 4 movies that he directed. But he's an OG X-Men, producer and director. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like he wasn't super comic book accurate. He, like I said, he kind of looks like a Power Ranger, or maybe not a Power Ranger. Well, what really came to mind was Bible Man. Remember Bible Man?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Every late 90s, early 2000s Christian homeschooler superhero TV show, everyone's favorite. Anyways, it was like a villain from that.
Yeah.
I felt kind of cheesy in some scenes, and I was just a little disappointed. Like there were some aspects, there were some scenes where I think they did really good. Well, they did really well with him. It looked great. He felt intimidating, but then there was others where I feel like it kind of fell flat. And I wish they would have done more with him and put a little more effort into make him more intimidating. Like I said, I thought Oscar Isaac did a good job.
Yeah.
Like if they would have had him survive and like have him be like a big bad for another movie, like they could have maybe done like stuck with this, but then have him like get bigger or like take over another body or something, like improve and like evolve as a villain.
Yeah.
Like they could have done that maybe, but
for sure
didn't. So, otherwise, yeah. Like the suits at the end that they all had were like it felt very X-Men-y, like even more than the original trilogy, which was cool. The Xavier obviously going bald, that's comic book accurate. They teased the Dark Phoenix with Jean Grey.
One thing that was weird was that Beast was able to go back and forth now.
Yeah, I mean they didn't really explain that, but he's able to control it now, I guess.
Yeah, he's just
I don't know.
That's just he's like whatever. I can get it under control. That's like their explanation.
Yeah, it's like the Hulk, I guess.
Yeah,
which I guess my ignorance. I don't know if that's a thing in the comics. I'm sure it is.
Well, he was. I'm comparing it to like maybe the original trilogy where he never.
Oh yeah, cause you're right. He never changes in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So
I don't know.
But yeah, that's just the X-Men timeline. All these different things that we're pointing out and thinking of is just.
Which, when it comes to the story, as like this is what our podcast is about, and what we want to focus on. We're enjoying talking about comic book stuff. We're enjoying unpacking these villains and these heroes, and even following the timelines. And because it is a story, like we are also following a story. Like the X-Men movies are a story that they're trying to tell, and it's a messy story. And so that does that's why we talk about it. But at the same time, it's like for this movie specifically, it doesn't really matter whether or not it connects to the timeline so much. But it's worth noting, and that's why we talk about it, because they didn't do a good job at telling a large story. And when we get to season 2 and we're watching most of the MCU movies, like that's going to change. Like we're going to actually see like, okay, this is how you tell an overarching story with individual stories within that fit in the big picture, fit together and follow an overarching arc with a villain who's pulling the strings everywhere. That's set up for Infinity War and Endgame and whatnot. So anyways, so this is helpful for us to like walk through this and talk about, okay, where did the X-Men go wrong? And even when we go to other trilogies like Blade or Spider-Man, it's like we're gonna comment on how they did with this story and throughout the trilogy and whatnot. And because each movie's its own story, but it's connected to this overarching story that they're trying to tell in these other movies. So yeah.
Well, I know we didn't say a whole lot.
And
oh, sorry.
One comment, which just a tease for the after hours. The Wolverine scene is actually a very comic book accurate scene that they included, which I was really happy about. That I wish we would have gotten in the last movie, which we'll talk about. But anyways, that was another kind of a nod, to them, and like a point for them as far as comic book accuracy, but didn't really do anything for the story. It was just there. Yeah, I don't know. Like, if anything else.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know we didn't have a ton to say about this movie compared to our other ones, but that was one of the problems with this movie is it had a lot of flaws. There wasn't a great overall connecting story, and it had so many different threads with all these different characters that it established in the beginning. A lot of them, like, there was no ending to their story. Like, if you take Quicksilver, for example, he just kind of was like, I'll tell him later, with his dad, and just all these different characters. It was a pretty big mess. So, but yeah, I think I don't have anything else to say about it. If you have anything else to say.
I think that is it.
All right, we can do our rating then. which mine
Yes.
did change after talking about it more.
Okay. I
Um,
think mine will probably stay the same.
so
Yeah.
I was
So yeah,
I
what?
was putting it
Go for it.
above Captain America.
Okay.
Um, I wanted to kind of tie it with First Class, but after talking about
Mm.
it, and thinking back to First Class, I think First Class was quite a bit better. I'm
Mm-hmm.
Captain America had a lot of flaws. It was a very bland movie, so I kind of want to put it above it still.
Okay.
So I kind of tied it with it right now. So I want to see what you have, and we can maybe talk about it. So
Okay.
6.4
Yeah.
is what I give it.
Okay. 6.4. Yeah. Um, and just a comment on that, like, it's okay if we like change our score.
For
Like, I
sure.
think that it's so much. It's so helpful hearing another person's perspective and talking through the movie. Like, I feel like I think I lowered my score for X-Men Origins Wolverine last time. It's like we were just walking through it. It's like, man, this is an awful movie,
Yeah, for sure.
and like and I still thought it was going to it, but it was even more like as we're unpacking it and like talking through it and talking about things that we noticed, and like there were a couple of things that you said that made me realize, okay, yeah, there was a little bit of a story that they were trying to tell, and I think they did accomplish in certain ways, and there were good things here and there that I didn't even see. So I think I'm gonna raise my score a little bit. I put a 5.9.
Okay.
5.9. I did Origins Wolverine. We did Origins Wolverine 5.1. So it's kind of 5.9. I feel like there's a little bit of room between those two because I don't think that this was definitely not as bad as X-Men Origins.
Right.
I do think it's better than Captain America. I do agree that there are a lot of faults. I think the third act was lacking in that one, and this third act was a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the second act as well in Captain America, like, so I can see like tying it. I think, um, though even going it because I remember going into it, like I think I had it a lot higher than you. But after we talked about it once again, like I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see where this one's at fault. But for this movie, I'm going to go a little higher, so I think I'll do probably 6.1. And if you did 6.4, that doesn't really help actually because there's not a middle for that.
Well, yeah. No, I think 6.1 was fair because I'm also
Okay,
thinking of other movies that we're gonna be doing and
right.
stuff,
That's my biggest thing.
and
Yeah.
compared to those and compared to Captain America, I think 6.1 is fair for this movie.
Okay. So that puts it at number 3 on our list. 4 movies.
Yes, that is number 3. And
X-Men First Class number 1, 7.1. First Avenger 6.4. Apocalypse 6.1. And Wolverine 5.1.
yep,
All
cool, cool,
right.
cool. So our next movie will be Howard the Duck.
Oh, okay. I thought right. I thought we were doing Dark Phoenix, but you're right.
Yeah, oh, so that'll
Howard the
be the
Duck.
next
Okay.
X-Men movie, yeah. So if you're talking about
X-Men movie.
X-Men,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, our
Right.
next movie will be Howard the Duck, which takes place in 1983 or something like that.
Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. Wait. So when did this one? Because this one,
Or this one might have
I think
been.
this one took place in 83. Well, when did Return of the Jedi come out?
Actually, I think this one was. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So Return of the Jedi came out in 83. So this one took place in 83.
Oh,
So Howard the
okay.
Duck is probably around that, or like 84 or 5 or something.
86.
Oh, 86. Okay.
And then there's Punisher. Punisher 1989 will be the movie after that. And then
Okay.
we
I
get
don't know if I've
to.
ever seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have. It's a hard one
Okay.
to find, actually, on
Really?
well, anywhere, actually. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
So we'll have to find a way to watch
Okay.
it.
Nice.
Cool. Do you want to wrap us up for this episode?
Sure. Yeah. So today we talked about X-Men Apocalypse, and we both came in with our opinions and changed a little bit of our opinions, and by the end, which is one reason why we're doing this, because we just want to, and we didn't talk at all about this beforehand. We didn't look at our We didn't go over notes or anything. We just, we have our own personal notes, but we didn't show each other notes, and we just went in and unpacked the movie and talked through it. And yeah, I definitely had some, we both had some issues with this movie, as far as story and following the villain and the lack of arcs for the heroes. But there was some good in that. Just even following Charles and seeing his sacrifice and seeing him become the leader and be able to bring together the X-Men who were just kind of in shambles, and just be able to step up and then be someone that they could all follow and look to, and the hero that they needed in that moment. And so we commend the movie for that, and for, yes, some special effects they were well done. The score was well done. So yeah, it was fun to watch it. But yeah, it had its faults. And so that is it. Next week we're talking about Howard the Duck. I've never seen a trailer for it. I've only seen images and stills, so I do not know what to expect. I've heard a lot about it. So I'm looking forward to going in with a completely empty slate, and unpacking it and seeing how it is.
For sure.
So Howard the Duck.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, guys, and we appreciate your support.
Yes, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Adios.